And welcome back to Session 4 of our series, Are You Loving It? Unlocking Power in Everyday Life. If you're just joining us, or if you've forgotten, we're discovering that the key to unlocking power in everyday life is authentic love expressed in relationships. In Session 1, we discovered how love expressed through kindness changes people. In Session 2, how patience changes people. In Session 3, how forgiveness changes people. And today in Session 4, we'll be discovering how authentic love displayed through courtesy has the power to change people. Again, the truth of these principles are from 1 Corinthians 13. And in Gary Chapman's book, Love is a Way of Life, he tackles each one of these 7 keys specifically while giving practical examples from his life and ministry, such as the account that he gives of a guy named Andrew Horner in chapter 5. Andrew dreamed of owning his own company. But in Dallas in the 1950s, he was having a tough time finding a job. He was the youngest of 13 children born in Northern Ireland and had recently immigrated to the United States from Canada with his wife Joan. After several unsuccessful job interviews, he overheard someone mention a job opening at S.C. Johnson & Son. The only problem, however, was that it required a college degree. And Horner, well, he had dropped out of high school at the age of 16. However, being the man that he was determined and drove to the interview anyway, where he met with Mr. Lansford, the regional manager. Mr. Lansford said that he was considering a candidate with a degree from Notre Dame, but he would be in touch. And we all know how that goes. Horner, though, was confident. And so as he walked out of the office, he introduced himself to all the ladies there. And every day he would check to see if Mr. Lansford had hired anyone. And when he did, he would stop and talk with the women, asking about their families and getting to know them. So after about a week of this, Mr. Lansford decided that he would let the women in the office decide who they wanted to be their boss. And guess who they picked? Andrew, the young man from Canada. Horner says that he likes to tell this story because it demonstrates the power of building relationships. And this is courtesy, the act of treating everyone as if they were a personal friend. Chapman shares with us, if we believe every person we meet is valuable, courtesy will be inevitable. So just think about that with me. Just think about that. How can we express or show value to the people around us? I would suggest that it's like when you're on an airplane and you see a mom with some kids and you have an aisle seat and she has to be separated from her kids. That it's like giving up the aisle seat so she can be close to her kids. Or maybe like when it's snowing really hard and you look over at your neighbor's house and you see their driveway and their porch covered in snow and yours is all clean, and you go over and you shovel or snow blow their driveway and porch. Or maybe it's like when you get a gift and you receive it with gratitude, thanking the person who gave it to you, even though you already have like 20 different kinds of the same gift. I think those would be great examples to communicate value to people. Yet, Gary shares with us that courtesy is best shown in the way we listen and the way we speak, because words give us the opportunity every day to affirm the importance of a relationship. In fact, in his book, he gives us 6 ideas for speaking courteously in everyday life, showing people that we value them. The first one, he says, is to initiate conversation. Although this may be easier for some, like my grandpa, for others who are introverted, it is especially difficult. But initiating conversation is courteous because it communicates, I think you're worth knowing, and I value you. So the next time you head into Walmart or Bill's or another restaurant of some sort, before the greeter cashier initiates conversation, try doing it yourself by saying good morning or good afternoon, or maybe thank them for their excellent service or affirm them for the work that they're doing. See how it changes their day, their life. Number 2, he says, is giving your undivided attention to someone. And I have to confess, for me, this one can be difficult. But if we're talking with someone, he says, and others we know pass by, keep talking and maintaining eye contact with the person in front of you. Again, focused attention communicates you are the most important person in my world right now, at the moment, and I value what you have to say. Number 3, he says, is listen to understand, not to judge or win. So often we get caught up in the trap of thinking about what we're going to say or how we're going to respond to a person without really listening to what they're saying. We're more concerned with our own thoughts or ideas than understanding what led others to their line of thinking. We're more concerned with maybe winning an argument than understanding where another person is coming from, or even that they might be right. He says, expressing respect for another's ideas before your own, keep the conversation friendly, courteous, and is less likely to make it adversarial. The fourth one that he gives us is to not raise our voice. He says, don't raise your voice. And again, I have to confess, I can be guilty of this one. Yet, I also find in my experience that Gary's spot on. That raising your voice and lashing out in impatience or with frustration often creates more heat than it does light. What you say may not be communicating as much as how you're saying it. I think that would be important for us to remember. Number 5 he gives us is that when you must reject an idea, do it with grace. This means we should always speak out of a desire to preserve the relationship, saying things like, I respect you as a person, but don't agree with you on this particular issue, and I hope it doesn't hurt our relationship, is a far better way to do this than just simply saying, no, you're wrong. Because it leaves the relationship open while sharing your perspective. Gary says this, and I think this is important to remember. He says, make sure you reject ideas. Never reject people. And then number 6, he says, apologize when needed. You see, the reality is sometimes we speak rudely, even when we don't intend to. And this often happens when we get busy. But just because we speak rudely doesn't mean we have to end the conversation or the relationship. If we're willing to apologize, the other person is often willing to forgive us, and the relationship can continue. I actually did this just the other day, texting a friend. I responded matter-of-factly without thinking how it sounded. So I went back and apologized for sounding rude and clarified that it wasn't my intention. And you know what happened? The conversation continued. The relationship continued. So you might be asking yourself, what does all this have to do with unlocking power in everyday life? Well, as Gary shares, if we learn how to speak with courtesy, even when we disagree with others, we can keep the doors of communication open and perhaps retain a friendly atmosphere rather than create enemies. In your study today, we'll be looking at the life of a young man named David and how even at the threat of his own life, he remained courteous and spoke courteously to the king of Israel. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy your study.